Guys, what's up? I just brewed up a cup of coffee here in Totoro. So today I'm going to talk all about eyelash growth and lash serums. I have gotten so many questions on this topic since the beginning of my channel, and I've been wanting to do a dedicated video regarding this for quite some time. I just haven't gotten around to it. You all seem to really enjoy many of my videos on different cosmetic procedures and cosmetic interventions, Botox, lasers, fillers. So I thought I would do a video today all about eyelashes and lash serums and Latisse for you all. So a little bit of background about eyelashes. You know, eyelashes grow incredibly slowly. They grow at a rate of about 0.12 to I don't know, anywhere from 0.2 millimeters per day. That is roughly 1/3 the growth rate of the hair on your head. And that is when they're in the growing cycle. So their growth is is much slower than hairs on your head. And the other thing that you should come to realize about eyelash growth and the rate of eyelash growth is that you know, the eyelash hair follicle goes in a cycle, just like the cycle of growth in our hair. It goes through a growing phase, it goes through a kind of involuting phase, and then it goes through a resting dormant phase, referred to as telogen. The telogen phase, or the resting dormant phase of the eyelash hair cycle, is much longer than the resting phase of your hair cycle. So that means that at any given time, significantly more of the eyelash follicles are really not growing at any one time. So their growth rate is much slower, and more of them are just in the dormant phase to begin with. Now, the drug bimatoprost, or Latisse, was actually first used to treat and still is used to treat glaucoma and elevated intraocular pressure. And serendipitously, it was observed a side effect of this drug was increased growth of eyelashes. And so that subsequently led to it being studied and later FDA approved for eyelash growth in the drug Latisse, which is the brand name of Allergan's bimatoprost that can be applied to the eyelashes. The way that this drug works is it is a prostaglandin analog, meaning that it binds to prostaglandin receptors in the eyelash and promotes eyelash growth. It does actually two things within the eyelash itself. Not only does it promote eyelash growth, meaning it kicks the eyelash into a cycle of growing, but it also increases the size of the eyelash bulb, so kind of the root of where all the eyelash growth is going on. It increases the size of that and the density of that, and as a result, bimatoprost, or Latisse, not only can increase the amount of eyelashes that are in the growing phase and make the eyelashes longer, it also can increase the size of the lashes, or the thickness. So those are two cosmetically advantageous outcomes of applying bimatoprost, or Latisse, to your eyelashes. When applied topically to the upper eyelash, it's relatively safe, fairly well tolerated. It's intended to be used once a day, applied with the specific applicator, just once a day to the upper eyelid only. It more or less transfers a little bit to the lower lid, and it is not approved for use on the lower eyelid yet. It hasn't been studied in that way. Side effects that I see most commonly with people using this is that it can be irritating, and it can cause some redness of the eyes. Itching, dry eyes is another common complaint. And the other thing that you should know about Latisse, or bimatoprost, is that in addition to stimulating the hair follicle size and putting the hair follicles into the growing stage, it also can stimulate melanocytes, which are the cells that make pigment. And as a result, one potential adverse effect is that you can develop some hyperpigmentation around the eyes, some darkening around the eyes. I've also observed it you can also observe occasionally, not very commonly, I've only seen this a handful of times, some hyperpigmentation of the colored portion of your eye, the iris. That can also occur. But the eyelash growth that you observe with Latisse, that you get with it, is not permanent. So once you stop using it, your eyelashes are just going to go back to the way that they once were. This is not a permanent solution. And so, you know, it's something that people have to use on an ongoing basis. And kind of the longer you use it, the more irritating it becomes. So, you know, there's that, all right? And it's obviously not generally covered by insurance. So you have to pay out of pocket for it, and it is quite expensive. You want to make sure you take your contact lenses out if you're using this before putting Latisse on, because it's got a preservative in it, which is, you know, more than fine for the most part, called benzalkonium chloride. And benzalkonium chloride can be absorbed by the soft contact lenses and cause quite a bit of irritation in the eye itself. So you definitely want to skip the contact lenses. Make sure you take them out before putting on Latisse. A known potential side effect of bimatoprost when being used for glaucoma, as in eye drops, is that it can cause atrophy of the fat around the eyes that supports the eyes. So it can cause some structural changes to the eyes. When applied to the skin, I have not seen that personally, but do know that that is something that has been reported with use of bimatoprost, is atrophy of the fat around the eyes, and subsequent, you know, that can have adverse effects for the anatomy of the eye itself. But, you know, Latisse is a drug. Bimatoprost is a drug. It does have known established side effects. So it's very important that you follow up with the treating healthcare provider to monitor for these side effects so they can appropriately counsel you when you should stop using it, you know, and monitor for any side effects that may be occurring. That's a nice thing about using a drug that is FDA approved. We can monitor adverse effects and report them and be aware of them, publish on them, as opposed to non-FDA approved cosmetics, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Outside of cosmetic reasons, though, Latisse can also be helpful for a variety of non-cosmetic reasons to grow the eyelashes back. I've observed that Latisse is helpful, for example, in women who have undergone chemotherapy for breast cancer and have lost their eyelashes. I have observed, and it has been published, that applying Latisse can help those lashes come back a little bit faster. So that's wonderful, because when you lose your eyelashes, you can develop dry eyes, a lot of irritation in the eyes, and it's not good. It has also been shown to be helpful in male pattern hair loss, believe it or not. Applying it to the scalp has been shown to be helpful in that condition, and there are some larger studies looking at it for that. And then it also has been shown to be helpful, believe it or not. There's some promising early data showing that it may be helpful for people with autoimmune, with vitiligo, which, if you're not familiar with vitiligo is an autoimmune condition in which the immune system attacks the pigment cells, results in loss of pigment and patches on the skin and hair. And there have been case reports of people with vitiligo around the eyes actually getting better because of Latisse, because of the side effect of Latisse of sometimes causing hyperpigmentation around the eyes. So stay tuned for that. Very, very early, but potential. You know, early on, we're very optimistic that Latisse might be helpful for people suffering from autoimmune hair loss, called alopecia areata. And some studies have shown that it is helpful. I've observed benefit in some patients who use Latisse either on their scalp or on their eyebrows or eyelash area for autoimmune hair loss. But it turns out from larger studies, what we know is that those patients, likely their hair was going to grow back anyway, and in patients with really, really bad resistant alopecia areata that's not growing back, Latisse is not going to help. That's what all the studies seem to suggest at this time, that really the people who respond to it are those whose hair was likely going to grow back anyway without doing anything. Outside of Latisse, what else can you do for your eyelashes? Well, everybody always wants to know my thoughts on X, Y, and Z eyelash serum. This serum, that serum. Here's the deal with serums. They are non-drug cosmetics. They purport having vitamins and, you know, natural plant-derived botanicals, etc., etc. For the most part, these are nothing more than irritants, and I don't recommend any of them. They are not studied. They have not been demonstrated to be effective. for eyelash growth, and they're non-drug cosmetics, so any adverse effects are not monitored by the FDA, and they're not required to show any efficacy or safety data. I personally, as a clinician, have observed numerous cases of bad allergic and irritant contact dermatitis around the eyes due to these eyelash serums, so I don't recommend them. I don't care, people will comment, I'm using this serum, I'm using that serum. Great. I can't recommend that to a general audience because there's no data to support the use of it, and I see nothing more than adverse side effects in my compartment of the world, and so I wouldn't recommend pursuing those. But I know they're very popular, a lot of people like them, but I do see a lot of adverse side effects to them, and I have yet to see substantial eyelash growth from anyone using them. But that could be because people are out there using them and seeing great results and not coming to the dermatologist. So I do have that bias in that I'm only seeing people who come with complaints of sparse lashes, not great lash health. Then there's good old-fashioned mascara, a combination of waxes and pigments and petrolatum-derived ingredients that temporarily can lengthen and darken the lashes. That's what I use, mascara. Mascara, the one kind of bugaboo problem with mascara or two is that you can develop, of course, irritant or allergic contact dermatitis to any one of the ingredients or preservatives. And then despite the preservatives, contamination does occur with mascara, and that can cause problems, irritation around the eyes, and subsequent further compromise of eyelash health. So, mascaras are sort of a temporary fix, as you all are well aware. Make sure you get rid of your mascara every 3 months and get a new one. They can breed little friends that you don't want to spread around. Never share your mascaras with other people. And then the last thing that is somewhat controversial is eyelash transplant. Having the hair from your head transplanted into the eyelash area is something that can be done. There are a lot of potential very risky complications that can occur with that, like bleeding and blindness. So it's a little scary and very invasive, but that is something else that is done. The funny thing about that, though, is because your hairs grow at a different rate than your eyelashes, you actually have to trim the eyelashes that are transplanted from your scalp onto your eyes because they grow too long. So you actually have to trim them. But if you're struggling with sparse eyelashes, it's very important, to see your healthcare provider if this is new onset, because there are a variety of medical conditions that can result in sparse eyelashes. I already mentioned alopecia areata. That is an autoimmune hair loss that can affect the eyelashes. So it's important to show this to your healthcare provider. Far and away, though, the thing that I see most commonly that compromises eyelash health is simply the use of cosmetics and makeups and eye makeups and eye makeup removers and the subsequent development of irritation and allergies to ingredients in those products. So less is more, the less things that you put on, the fewer things that you put on your eyelashes, they can grow and be healthy and just do their thing, the better off you are. Vitamins, dietary supplements, foods, none of these have been shown in any substantial manner to promote eyelash growth. So I don't recommend any supplement or gummy for eyelashes. If you are wearing mascara, though, the other tip that I recommend for removing the mascara or removing the eye makeup is to use an oil-based cleanser that gently removes the makeup, breaks it up without you having to rub the eyes. The more rubbing you do on the eyes, the more likely it is to compromise the health of the eyelashes. So I personally have observed a benefit in the health of my eyelashes doing a double cleanse with an oil-based cleanser that doesn't require me to rub the eye, and really simply mineral oil alone is adequate. It conditions the lash, prevents the lash breakage, and removes that requirement to scrub the eyes. I don't recommend using micellar waters or makeup wipes. I know a lot of you need to use those either as a result of your job environment. You wear a lot of heavy eye makeup, so that, but if you can avoid those, they tend to be more problematic than just a simple mineral oil, cleansing oil to break up the makeup. Eyelashes, yes, they're slow to grow and they take a long nap. Remember that. Eyelashes grow very, very slowly. So I hope this video was helpful to you all in kind of overviewing Latisse, what to expect with it if you have decided to pursue that with your healthcare provider. The key word is with your healthcare provider. Don't try and DIY Latisse if you get it on the internet or something. There are potential consequences that can arise. You need to be followed just to make sure everything is going along accordingly. You don't want to develop something that could compromise the health of your eyes. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.